All right. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to another uh, episode of Milk Crate Moments. I'm Jean Kuhn, your host, and today with me is Monica Vest Wheeler. Monica, hello. Thank you for being here today.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I thought, hey, why not right after Christmas? It's okay.
All right. So this is the time, and I hope you felt the same way, Monica. Not I today. I'm like, what was I thinking to do this the week after Christmas? I'm on vacation, right? I'm on vacation. Why do I want to do a podcast? But then I saw it was you. I'm like, okay, I'm doing it. Right? I'm doing it. So I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank
So,
you.
um, you know, I'm reading the title here: Lessons in Practical Resilience. This is how I like to start every podcast. I'm on vacation mode, Monica. I'm just going to say it. The words are eluding me right now.
It's
Um,
okay.
but but practical resilience, right? I'm super excited that that's what your episode is called, because I do think that if we're not resilient in our businesses, who the hell are we?
Right.
So, right. So, we're going to start like we always do with what is your milk crate moment?
My life took a completely different direction. I thought I was just going to be a writer and write local history books. And then all of a sudden, I was attracted by the topic of coping with cancer. And I ended up co-authoring a book on with two other folks. And I really dug into the emotional side and everyday challenges of this. And so then I was asked by the Alzheimer Association to do a similar book for them. I
Mm,
did that, and I became much more involved, and I just got really caught up in the lives of these families that I met. So this is where I'm just trying to sort out, and then I come up with my own father-in-law being diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And when I followed my advice in the book, it worked pretty well, but your heart gets in the way. And so then I wrote about all those, challenges on Facebook, and the feedback was so enormous, and, it was mind-boggling that people were saying, "Thank you for being honest about this. Thank you for sharing your journey, as difficult as it is." And I just became it's like, I got private messages and everything's like, "Okay, I must be doing something here, but I'm learning from it while I'm living it." And so writing all this down, and then other things came along where I lost my dad unexpectedly and ended up writing in real time about that on Facebook as, those last 36 hours of his life. And it was so raw and emotional, but I needed to pour out. It was therapy at the time. And even the family understood where I was coming from with this by sharing these very intimate moments. And then I took care of my mom with cancer, and then took care of my cousin with after a heart attack and a brain injury. And then I took care of my aunt, and then had a little time off, and then took care of my aunt again until she passed in July of this year. And the more I write about it, the more I share, the more I hear back from people that this is helping them. And it's also much cheaper than therapy, I think I have found. Um, Therapy would be easier, I think, than the losses that I've had in recent years.
uh,
So it completely readjusted the transition of where my life was going, and now I'm just intimately involved with, family caregivers and survivors across the country with brain injury and stroke and Alzheimer's, and yeah, I just never imagined in a million years I'd be doing this kind of thing.
it's really interesting that you said all you kind of poured out your story as therapy on Facebook, right?
Mhm.
And so let's talk about that for a minute because there's so many people who are so afraid of being canceled for any specific word that they might say. Hey, by the way, we have Facebook users joining us today. Would you guys mind posting your names in here? Tell us who's joining us today. And one of them said, I don't know if you can see that. Amen, Monica. God bless you.
Oh,
We'd
well,
love
thank
to have a
you.
name to go with that, with those, what do you want to call them? Messages. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, so sharing your story, so many people are so afraid to share anything anymore, right? For
Yeah.
fear of being ridiculed or spoken down to or told it's inappropriate or so tell us what gave you the strength to share your story. And then I want to ask a story about you said you got family pushback or it sounded like you didn't say that. it sounded like you got a little pushback when you
Yeah.
were sharing your father's story. So tell us about that. Hi, Phil.
Yeah, um, I felt like well, and I wrote, like I said, when I wrote about my, dealing with what was going on with my father-in-law, I lived the last 11 days of his life there in the Alzheimer's unit with him, because or else we were gonna have to move him somewhere else, a nursing home or whatever, and we just didn't wanna move him because, he declined so rapidly, and I would be awake and writing about this, typing about it in the middle of the night,
Mm,
and I think maybe, as my husband's family, there was 1 or 2 relatives were a little uncomfortable about me sharing that, but sometimes you've just got to do something a little bit bigger than yourself, and I thought, "Okay, I have been given this unfortunate yet fortunate gift to help more people." And it's like, "Okay, this is just what I've gotta do," because again, I had people telling me, "I need to hear this. Thank you for being brutally honest." And I had also started talking about my own lifelong depressions with or issues with depression. And if that doesn't scare you a little bit, putting that out because a lot of people are just like, "Oh, no, you can't talk about those things," or and, I even had a couple people in the, religious community, including a pastor, say, "Well, you're just not believing in God enough." And it's like, "Okay, I've gotta put the brakes on this, a little bit here to help people better understand that we are human beings and we have all these emotional needs that can be met in the simplest ways, and that's what I've discovered through all these journeys. It's been the littlest things that mean the most, and so many people step back when a friend or other family member is going through a rough time, unless it's like a medical emergency at that moment. But with brain-related issues, people are more hesitant to come forward because they don't understand what they cannot see going on in the brain. They can see a broken leg. They can see the aftermath of, cardiology rehab and things like that. But this is where I got braver with each time and I took a risk. And, my husband was so supportive as I wrote about this. And he was like, "You're right. You know, this helped other people because he saw the comments and he heard it from other people, and he said, "If this helps someone," and that was all I wanted. I didn't want any other family to go through what we had gone through.
sure. And oh my gosh, I think isn't that why most of us share our story, right? It's to help somebody else. And 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 it sucks going through it when you're going through it, right? Oh, I love that. I love that so much. Phil, I just sent you a link in the chat. Phil Breakfield, if you'd like to join us, because this is a discussion that I think you might want to be in on. And if you don't feel comfortable, that's fine too. Monica, let's talk about um, did you ever once have any fear about sharing what you were sharing?
Once in a while, I mean, I would read it again, and there were a couple times during these different journeys where I would send it to a friend, and I said, "Okay, this is extremely raw, I might go on too far." And, a couple trusted friends, and they wrote back and said, "Wow, somebody needs to say this."
Mm,
And, it's like, this is just what I'm supposed to do. I realized I had all these challenges, all these caregiving episodes, all these thousands of people I met across the country at brain injury and stroke camps and through Alzheimer's. And now I also am a mentor for Alzheimer's facilitators, who lead sport groups and try to help them cope with the emotional challenges of leading a discussion group for people who are pouring out raw emotions. And I've got this it's that resilience in me that fine, I'll cry at a Hallmark. I don't even watch Hallmark anymore because they make me cry. I
yeah.
can't do sad movies, I can't do but I can do these most raw human emotions going on in the moment, and if that's the gift that God's given me, thank you very much because and I'm gonna put it to use, I hope in the best way possible.
I love so this is what oh my gosh, I keep moving up and then sun's hitting me in the face there. So I get the feeling that this was not where you had kind of saw your path going,
No, I
your
mean
business path.
No, I thought I was just gonna write local history books and articles and everything, and then when I, worked on this cancer project and then Alzheimer's, and I thought, "My heart is just really calling me, in a different way," and my love of history was also tied in that I was able to interview some Holocaust survivors,
Oh, wow.
and working, on a project related to that, it's like I tied in 2 of my loves, history and writing, but becoming a storyteller for those who often do not have a voice loud enough to be heard. And that's where a lot of caregivers and families going through these difficult times, they're often ignored. Society doesn't understand what to do with long-term survivors nowadays. Thank goodness and thank God we've got all these medical miracles and these medications and these treatments and everything, but we have people surviving now that didn't survive 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Mhm.
And society hasn't a clue on how to help with it. Government doesn't get it, insurance companies don't get it, that these are the challenges of being alive and, with these medical miracles, but yet, what's the everyday life like for these folks? And, I've heard everything. I mean, folks have confided in me just about everything imaginable, including one who just wanted to take their loved one and just drive off a cliff together
Oh
to
my
end it for
goodness.
both of them. It's
Oh,
like, "Okay, we need some help here," and, and I never hesitate to refer and encourage somebody to get help, because 'cause I'm not a therapist, and, we just all need and depression affects up to 75-80% of caregivers. Been there, done that, and, sometimes I'll just say, "It's okay." The stigma about depression, we think it's gotten better, but in many ways, it's not, and especially for older generation that is still afraid to be labeled as depressed.
so as you're going through all of this, right? Like this sounded like, are you on the other side? Let me ask that first. Are you on the other side of all of the family loss over the last few years?
Yes, thank goodness, like I said, my aunt, being with her in the last week of her life, here this summer was a very powerful experience, especially since she had not spoken to me for 2 years before this happened. And we made uh, she apologized to me, before she passed, and it was like, "Okay," and I lost, that time with her because I promised my mom I would take care of my aunt, her sister, in every way possible, and there were misunderstanding. It's just like, "Okay, I don't understand where this is coming from," and to find out shortly before she passes away what the issue was, and it's like, what a waste. What a
Oh,
waste of life and time and everything else. This is where I tell people, get past the stupid stuff in life. It is not worth it because you're really gonna regret it someday, and some people carry, grudges and losses, they won't let anybody in. Some people will never forgive anybody for anything, and where does that get you? Those are some of the most powerful life lessons I've learned firsthand, and that's what I preach to people and, try to tell through stories about why it's I'm not preaching, but telling through a real story, and that's what we're craving. We're craving stories that we can identify with.
well, so it sounds like that you've kind of taken your whole business in a different level, in a different direction, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that now. What are you doing right now, like business wise? I know you wanted to you were you're a writer, right?
Yes.
So what are you doing now what are you doing now, and are you building a business around it?
Yes, it was really weird because when I had to take time off from my business, when I was taking care of all these family issues, which I wouldn't have traded for anything in the world. It's like I get started and then boom, I get stop again. And, I just work for myself or work on my home or wherever I take the computer with me. It's like here this year, I thought, okay, I have enough material for a thousand ebooks and books. It's like now is the time for the discipline to sit down and get them done and out there because these are the things people ask about and talk about and want somebody to bring up the hard topics that nobody else will talk to. And this is where I started getting, speaking engagements set up again because I'm not that typical speaker out there with the BS and the 12 educational things after the name. It's been through the classroom of life that I trying to talk about issues that people simply don't want to talk about. That's what is compelling me now, and bringing kind of waking speaker, those folks are hiring speakers to think about this in a little bit different way. You don't sometimes want a nice, clean, thing that makes everybody smile when they walk away. You want them to feel something and be changed and want to do something with their lives in that moment, and that's what I'm trying to convey through my writing and, the speaking. So this is my, real big push right now is so I'm looking for stages and, me, trying to reach out to more groups because the human emotions are universal, and this is what we've gotta start learning before it's too late.
Oh, so beautifully said. So when you go out to speak, what are you speaking about?
I've spoken about caregiving issues. I've also spoken to um, a network of medical providers in one state where I gave them the viewpoint of, here you're not just treating one patient, you're treating the whole family. And at each of my caregiving things, I had taken on different roles. I had to be the advocate in other things. I had to be the nasty person that kept trying to get the doctor to acknowledge that we got a problem here. And finally, the doctor admitting to me later, he apologized, saying, "You were right." And it's like, okay, people are afraid that white coat syndrome. And I get tough with questions and I'm the one that sometimes it's the only one there, or I'm the only one, with my mom where she just, decides during treatment at the doctor's office she doesn't want to continue. It's like, how do I handle that? And I remember when we left, the nurse gave me a hug. She says, "I don't know how you did handle that." I said, "I don't know. I'm still processing it." So this is where medical providers need to better understand that you're dealing with a lot of family emotions, not just the one physical being that is there seeking your medical attention. There's a whole lot of people hurting when there's even just one name on that chart.
Mm, wow. So you now I know speaking and writing is not all you do. What else do you do?
Well, I just finished a new history book locally on the history of the local preemie unit here in Peoria, Illinois. And this has opened up a whole new thing in that I found groups that are seeking advice for how to deal with, the aftermath of the birth of a premature, or high risk baby. It's a growing number. I mean, some babies are surviving at, 22 weeks gestation today, which was unheard of, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Sure.
But what is the emotional toll on the family? Because, mothers are supposed to get their babies right away and they're supposed to be bonding right away. But the separation that was for years, it was the 1970s before families were allowed in the premature nursery to even touch their child. And, we've still got a long way to come yet, with this, but I'm so glad of, this local program. They've got private rooms now. It's like this bonding time can determine the future relationship, of this child, the development of this child, and, the bonding with the parents. Because if you don't get your baby soon, there was a couple of folks back in the 1800s and early 1900s said the mother will forget what she's supposed to be doing if she doesn't have the opportunity to bond right away with her child or with at least in a reasonable amount of time.
That is not what I thought you were going to say. I thought was going to be more on the baby won't know how to bond with the mother, but wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah, I had, one woman described how her son wasn't very huggy, and then a new high risk preemie, told me in her 30s and 40s that she just never was a huggy person. Is this because they didn't get much physical and hands-on, during the separation there early on?
Mm.
So these are all questions that human touch is so important, but some people, they just step back, they don't want to. What are they afraid of? They're afraid of being emotional about that connection. And I guess
Mhm.
I want to give permission to people to feel emotional because I guarantee, one day that person's not gonna be there, and you're gonna be, "Why was I put up a wall all these years?" I don't want people regretting things, um,
Uh,
that could have been so easy and with minimal pain to conquer.
so where's your book available at?
We're working on that. We just got it right before right before before Christmas. Working on the distribution thing right now. So I like I said, I'm waiting to hear back from the folks there that help with the printing and everything. So I'm hopeful to get something out here in the next week or two about specifics on the book order. It's over 500 photos in it. Black and white photos. And again, this fed my love of history and the emotions. You can't get much more emotional than premature and high risk babies and the history of them. So this is absolutely very powerful.
Scared me. I was all into your story and when that went off. So, um, will it be available on your website?
I'm hoping so. That's what we're, like I said, ironing out the details, working with the foundation and everything. But there will be updates there on my website, monicavestwheeler.com. And drop me a line there. There's contact information, and I will be putting up some new things, some new sheets and everything on caregiving tips and some other stuff. Working on that, hey, it's the holidays here, so trying to catch up. But
Right,
yeah,
right. Well, I'm gonna let you go back to your holiday, back to, what is it? It's 3 where are you? You're south of
I'm your time. Yep.
yeah,
Hmm.
okay, you're so 3:30 almost, Central Time. I'm gonna
Yep.
get back to your holidays. I'm gonna go back to my holidays. For those of you who are joining us or who've joined us today, please, please, please have a happy, happy New Year and pick up Monica's new book. It sounds interesting, especially the story you just told about it's the moms who forget, not the babies. That's so interesting.
Mhm.
So happy New Year, everybody. Monica, happy New Year. Thank you for being my esteemed guest
Oh,
today and
thank
taking time away from your holiday to be here. I'm so happy you were here today, and I will see you soon. Okay.
okay. Thank you.